Hey there. So, I want to share a little bit today about anger. And this is one of my, interestingly enough, favorite topics to talk about. I got to do a TEDx talk about mindful anger and a mindful approach to anger last year. And I want to talk about this in large part because of what's happening in our world right now. So, emotions are high. People are feeling fear, grief, pain, anxiety, all sorts of feelings. And a big feeling that I've been definitely witnessing in the news and on social media and amongst my friends and certainly within myself is anger. Some rage, some anger, some blaming, attacking each other. And I want to kind of unpack that a little bit with all of you here. And I think first I'll just share my own process. And I'm a little hesitant to share it because I don't want to kind of start or open up a whole debate around this particular topic. I really actually want to focus on the anger itself. But I'll let you in on what's been happening for me lately. So I think the first, I don't know, two or 3 weeks where I really started to feel the impact of this pandemic and the coronavirus and started to feel a lot of fear and anxiety. I was a lot more in kind of like the shock and denial phase, and a lot of freeze and fear was gripping me quite a bit. And as I started to kind of move or transition through that phase a little bit, I started to feel a lot of rage and anger. And I found that there was certain individuals on social media or maybe in the news or certain friends of mine that would say something or have a certain point of view, and I would feel this surge of rage and anger come up. And the surge was so intense at times that I would feel this quaking in my body, like I wanted just to defend my perspective, my point of view, whether it was around social distancing or around the coronavirus and where it started or who's to blame or all those things. I mean, it could have been anything, but I noticed that I was tethered to my point of view and gripping to it, and anyone who had a different point of view, I felt like I was ready to attack them and bite their head off. And this is unusual for me. I mean, I've done a lot of work around anger, and so to watch myself and, to kind of take some space from those interactions and to feel the adrenaline in my body, I was like, what is going on with me? And at one point, my partner and I even got into it, and I attacked him and launched at him, not physically, but certainly verbally. And he really invited me to inquire into what was going on for me. And it took a few days before I really felt ready to do it. And he created some space for me just to blurt. And I like to just call blurting just like let a free flow of feelings and thoughts pour out of you without thinking about it. And as I got beneath the anger and kind of let the anger vent, and I kept going beneath the layers, what I actually got to in this verbal blurting was a deep, deep, deep terror that I could lose my parents to the coronavirus. And I wasn't even in touch with that level of fear that I had around that until that moment. And I just sobbed. I sobbed and sobbed, and I sobbed in his arms, and I let myself feel, and I'm even feeling it right now, I let myself feel the deep fear and deep fear of the loss of my parents, who I love so much. And there was something very healing and very cathartic about allowing myself to feel the vulnerability of my love for them and the vulnerability of my fear of losing them. And I, instead of kind of moving beyond the grief phase into kind of rational thinking, I just let myself feel the wave. And my partner held me, and it was super powerful and healing. And what I really came to was that, and I know this rationally, because I've studied anger, but what I really came to was that some part of me was using anger to kind of guard myself against feeling some of those more vulnerable feelings of the fear and vulnerability and grief around the loss of loved ones. And so that's kind of what I want to speak to a little bit today is, the way that I see anger is that there's pure anger, pure life force anger, which is a boundary, which is a no, which is standing for injustice. And this is a really powerful force. So this is primary emotion, anger. This is a primary emotion. And then there's secondary emotions. And anger can also be a secondary emotion. And one of my teachers, Katie Hendricks, would call secondary emotions like jacket emotions. So underneath our jacket is our first emotion, and then on top of us, we put a secondary emotion like a jacket, and we can often wear it to kind of help ourselves feel safe or guard against the vulnerability of the primary emotion. So anger, and what I was experiencing for myself and what I'm also seeing a lot in the news and on social media, a lot of us are wearing anger as a secondary emotion right now. And what that means, at least in my case, was that we are caught up in this blame game. We're caught up in this adrenaline. And you can tell that you're wearing anger as a jacket or secondary emotion because oftentimes there's an inappropriate and super exaggerated response, anger response to the situation at hand. So the situation at hand might be two people talking about something, and suddenly you just launch at them, ready to attack with claws and fangs, out. So I think for me, it was really huge to identify, I've been doing anger as a secondary emotion, and in large part, I've been doing that to help me not feel the intense vulnerability of this deeper fear and grief. And what I want to offer is there's something really powerful when we can go beyond the jacket emotion to the primary emotion or emotions that are happening and really get in contact with them. And from that place, I feel like we are much more empowered to be able to communicate with other people, to be able to relate to other people's experience. Because I know right now there's a lot of people having a whole variety of experiences around what's happening in our world with the pandemic and social distancing. And instead of attacking each other, we can better hear each other and understand each other's perspectives. So I've been feeling ever since that big, huge fear and grief wave with my partner that something in my system is a lot more settled. And it doesn't mean I still don't get angry at certain people's points of view, but my anger has a little bit less fangs in it now, and some more deep breaths and a willingness to understand other perspectives. So if I was to offer you any tool here to use if you suspect that you are engaging in some secondary anger or jacket anger, might be that in the midst of your anger, your rage, just to take some deep breaths. Get grounded, feel your feet, feel your body. And before you lash out at someone or send that message on social media, to ask yourself, I wonder what emotion might be underneath this rage or this anger right now. I wonder what I might be avoiding feeling right now that might be kind of scary or too vulnerable to feel. And just that ability to wonder might help you deepen into what's actually here. So that's my offering for you, and I'm wishing you all well in this big, huge time. Bye-bye.